It's been a while since we've done one of these, hasn't it? Time for another obscure old racing games. A few months back, I made a video about Final Drive Fury, and this is the follow-up. At the time, I said I would review the game properly if I ever figured out a way around its copy protection. Well, within 24 hours of posting that video, I received not one, but two comments detailing entirely different, extremely easy methods of doing just that. I want to give a big thank you to everyone who left helpful advice in the comments of that original video, though in hindsight, I kinda wish I hadn't made it. Now, I don't entirely disagree with what I said in that video, but when I made it, I was operating under a few false assumptions, and I had been trying on and off for months to make a Final Drive Fury video. I was so desperate to put something out related to this game that I made a number of mistakes which ended up in the final video. Had I done just a bit more research and put a little more effort in during production, it would have just been a normal review of Final Drive Fury like I intended. Instead, the overarching point of that video was that Final Drive Fury was a digital-only game that had been officially delisted, which had left me with no way to play it. I found an old archive copy that contained DRM I couldn't figure out how to bypass, and as a result, the video ended up being a rambling mess about game preservation and copy protection and corporate sponsorships. Now, those are all important topics that I think are worth discussing, but the problem with all of this is that, at least as it pertains to Final Drive Fury, that discussion is completely irrelevant and unnecessary. You see, there's a key bit of information that I somehow completely missed while working on that original video. That being that Final Drive Fury isn't actually a dead game, nor was it ever in danger of becoming one. Yeah. Kind of a big oversight on my part, especially given the direction that last video took. While it's true that Final Drive Fury was officially delisted about a decade ago, and that the copy I was able to get working had DRM that I didn't know how to bypass, it turns out that this game was completely free for most, if not all, of its official lifespan. It's difficult to find exact information about these old Wild Tangent games, especially the delisted ones, but from what I can tell, Final Drive Fury was either released as a free game, or it went free to play no more than 6 months after launch. Again, I haven't been able to verify this one way or the other. The copy I had in that first video was either from the brief period when the game was being sold at a premium, or it was faulty in some way because the DRM locked me out after one play session. And either way, I wasn't able to play it for the video. I was made aware of Final Drive Fury's free-to-play status shortly after publishing that original video, and after some digging, I managed to track down a different copy that works just fine, rendering all my, and your efforts to bypass the copy protection in that first version completely unnecessary. I also updated the description in that video to link to the new working copy of the game I found. I also feel I should emphasize that this was all within like 72 hours of publishing that original video. The reason you're getting this follow-up now instead of 4 months ago is down to a combination of other unrelated technical issues and procrastination. Now that I've hopefully cleared up all my faulty assumptions, let's have a proper look at Final Drive Fury. I don't want to repeat myself too much here, so just know that Final Drive Fury is basically the exact same game as Final Drive Nitro, which I also made a video about. I'd suggest watching that first, as for the remainder of this review, I'm gonna mostly focus on the differences between the two. Now, as I discussed extensively in my previous Final Drive Fury video, this game prominently features the Kia Spectra as a playable vehicle. I mentioned last time that the Spectra is free at the start of the game, whereas you have to pay for the other vehicles, but it's actually worse than that. You literally don't start the game with enough money to afford another car. You have to drive the Kia for at least a couple races in order to save up enough. The only saving grace here is that this game was apparently free, and in that context, this blatant product placement isn't quite as egregious as I had previously made it out to be. Based on my brief time playing this game previously, as well as its prequel, I expected that it would be an extremely tedious and needlessly difficult experience. The driving model certainly does give that impression, and despite what I said in my last video, I think it may have been tweaked a bit from Nitro. Acceleration is extremely sluggish, turning is less than responsive, and you tend to slide around really easily. It feels like the cars are too heavy while also having next to no traction. Luckily, the AI seems to struggle with the driving physics just as much as I did, and the rubber banding has been toned down significantly from Nitro, so once you adjust to the crap factor, this game isn't actually all that difficult. In fact, it's downright easy. I didn't lose a single race in my time playing, even with no performance upgrades installed on my vehicle. There were a couple times where I fell pretty far behind and thought for sure I was gonna lose, but no matter what, I somehow managed to pull back ahead into first place before the finish. It's almost like the AI rubber banding is the inverse of what it was in Nitro. And that sorta leads into the other false assumption I made in my last video. I thought this game would be about as long as the first one and take many hours of grinding to fully complete, which, unlike Nitro, I actually wanted to try to do this time. Nope. Turns out this game is pitifully short. I could have easily beaten it in a single play session, just like I had discussed in my last video, if I had kept with it a little bit longer. Final Drive Fury only has 4 races in total. That's right, 4. That comprises the entirety of this game's campaign, and all 4 of them take place on one single track. There's a 1-lap race, a 2-lap race, and 2 3-lap races, all on the same circuit. That's it. That's the entirety of this game's campaign, and I beat it in a little over an hour. I probably could have done it in 45 minutes if I hadn't spent time grinding extra cash so I could afford all 3 vehicles. Now, you might be thinking, wait a sec, didn't you already play this game for a couple hours on your last attempt? And yeah, I said that, but in reality it was more like 20 minutes before I noticed the game capture was screwed up. That line was a mistake, and by the time I noticed it, the video was almost done, and I didn't really want to go back and re-record it, so I just left it in, figuring it wouldn't really matter. Oops. For what it's worth, Final Drive Fury is more fun to play than Nitro, despite being utterly devoid of content. The single track the game features, while not particularly inspired, is decently fun to navigate, and it's certainly better than any of the tracks in Nitro. There are a few tweaks made to the gameplay, like reduced tire traction and getting Nitro from pickups, that mean navigating this track without hitting anything is actually a fun challenge. Once you get used to the handling model, this game encourages this playstyle. Both the scoring system it retained from Nitro and the fact that winning each race is pretty much a given mean that racking up huge combos is most of the engagement Final Drive Fury has to offer. By the end of my playtime, I was power sliding around half the track to the point of outlapping my opponents. Once you win all 4 race events and unlock all 3 cars though, Final Drive Fury really runs out of steam. The only thing left to do at that point is to grind the same 4 race events over and over again to earn more cash to fully upgrade every vehicle. Considering that the performance upgrades are meaningless and the customization options are pretty bare bones, I'm not sure why anyone would bother to do that. One track with 4 races just isn't enough challenge or variety to support even the tiny number of unlocks this game has to offer. The script for this video is currently about half the length I thought it would be, and I'm struggling to think of things to add that wouldn't just be repeating points from my other 2 videos. I guess the placeholder ads on the billboards are kind of interesting, mainly because you can tell that they intended to use these as in-game ad space and it never got filled. It's also amusing how the only decal option for each car is just the name of the vehicle. Final Drive Fury is just such a nothing game. You can get the full experience in about an hour, and unless you're a hardcore completionist or a speedrunner, all the appeal just kind of falls out of the bottom after that point. I mean, it's free to play, so play it if you want, I guess. Link in the description. Hey, if you're still here, thanks for watching till the end. I've released a general channel update video alongside this one. I'm probably going to take it down at some point, but if it's still up, I'd encourage you to go watch it. There's some things I addressed there that I'd like some community feedback on. Other than that, I think that's the video. Bye.